For as long as we've told stories, we've passed down truths. At least, we thought they were truths. The brain only uses 10% of its power. Shaving makes your hair grow back thicker. The Great Wall of China is visible from space. Say them enough times. They start to sound like facts. But repetition isn't proof. And belief isn't reality. This film is not about pointing fingers, it's about pulling back the curtain. Behind everyday assumptions lie deeper forces. How myths spread, why they survive, and what they reveal about us. Because in a world overflowing with information, the hardest thing to see is what we've always believed. This is 13 myths 90% of people still believe. And it's time to unlearn. We only use 10% of our brain. I've heard that sentence so many times. It practically echoed in my head. Teachers said it. Movies swore by it. And for a while, I believed it. It made me feel like there was some sleeping genius inside me. A hidden reservoir of power I just hadn't tapped into yet. But then I looked into it. And the truth? It's not just wrong, it's spectacularly wrong. Brain scans show that even when I'm resting, almost every region of my brain is active. Thinking, feeling, remembering, it's all happening across a vast network of neurons. All the time. This myth, it likely came from a misquote or a bad headline. Something catchy enough to stick, even if it wasn't true. But I get it. It's comforting to think we've got more inside us, waiting to be unlocked. The real mystery, though, isn't in what we're not using. It's in understanding just how much we're using. And still don't understand. I don't use 10% of my brain. I use all of it. And it's still the most complex thing I'll ever own. Alcohol kills brain cells. That's what I was always told, usually right before someone handed me a drink with a smirk. And for a long time, I took it as fact. Drink too much, and you're slowly destroying your brain, cell by cell. But then I started digging, and the science told a different story. Alcohol doesn't kill brain cells, not directly. What it does is mess with the way they communicate. It scrambles the signals, slows everything down. And if the drinking's heavy and long-term, it can damage the connections between cells, especially in areas tied to memory and decision-making. But kill them off entirely? That part's a myth. Now, that doesn't mean alcohol is harmless, far from it. It can shrink brain tissue, mess with neuroplasticity, and wreck your sleep, your mood, your memory. But the drama of killing brain cells is just that drama. The truth is more subtle, and maybe more unsettling. Because the damage it does isn't about erasing neurons. It's about rewiring you. Quietly. Slowly. Over time. And honestly, that scares me more. Sugar makes kids go crazy. I heard it all my life from parents, teachers, the media. If a kid's running wild, sugar must be to blame. But when I looked into the science, the surprise was immediate. No solid link. Study after study shows sugar doesn't cause hyperactivity. In controlled tests, kids given sugar behaved the same as those who got a placebo. The difference, the adults' expectations. We see what we expect to see. It's not about what sugar does to kids. It's about what stories we tell ourselves when they're acting out. Sugar has its problems, sure, but turning kids into lunatics isn't one of them. I used to blame the sweets. Now I blame the script. Shaving makes your hair grow back thicker. It's a classic. I've heard it from friends, family, even barbers. Shave it, and it'll come back darker, coarser, and full of life. But then I decided to test it. And here's the truth. It's just a trick of the eye. When you shave, you're cutting the hair at the surface. The tip is blunt now, so it feels thicker. But it's not. Hair doesn't grow back faster or thicker, it just looks like it because of the new cut. And that's not even the weird part. The real kicker is the texture. Shaving doesn't change the structure of your hair at all. It's the same as it was before: soft, fine, or coarse, depending on your genetics. I used to believe it too. Now I know better. The only thing thicker after shaving is the myth itself. Memory works like a video camera. That's what I always thought, that my brain just records everything perfectly, like pressing play on a tape recorder whenever I need to recall something. But when I started digging deeper, I found out something shocking. My memory is not a video camera at all. In fact, it's more like a story that I keep rewriting. Research shows that memory isn't about playback, it's reconstructive. Every time I remember something, my brain pieces it together, filling in gaps with details that feel right. Sometimes, it's even changing the story without me realizing it. And that's not just in my head. Studies show that when people are asked to recall an event, their memories can shift, often influenced by what they've heard or seen after the fact. The truth is, I don't have a perfect recording of my past. I have fragments shaped by time, emotions, and even my own biases. And that's a little unsettling, isn't it? To know that my memory, my truth, is more fiction than fact. We see the world as it is. That's what I always believed, that my eyes gave me an unfiltered view of reality. What I see is what's there. Simple. Clear. But the more I learned, the more I realized my perception is anything but objective. The human brain is constantly editing the world before it even reaches my conscious mind. What I see isn't the whole picture. It's a highly filtered, curated version. Take color, for example. What I see as red or green. It's just the way my brain processes certain wavelengths of light. Other animals see it differently. Some don't see it at all. And depth? I'm just guessing. My brain uses clues like size and shadows to create the illusion of 3D space. But it's all a trick. I don't see reality. I see my brain's version of reality. And sometimes, it's not even close to the truth. Everyone has a learning style. I used to hear it all the time: some of us learn best by seeing, others by hearing or touching. It seemed so intuitive. Of course, we all must learn differently. But when I dug into the research, I found out the truth. The science doesn't back it up. Studies show that there's no solid evidence that tailoring teaching methods to a learning style improves learning outcomes. In fact, people tend to learn best with the right mix of visual, auditory, and hands-on approaches, not one single method. The learning style idea is a catchy myth, but it's also limiting. It makes us believe we're locked into one way of learning, when in reality, we can all benefit from a variety of approaches. I used to think I was a visual learner because I liked pictures. Now I know learning is a lot more flexible than I ever imagined, and I'm not confined to just one style. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. It's a saying that sounds comforting, like the odds are on your side. But when I looked closer, I realized it's not true at all. In fact, lightning strikes the same place all the time. Take the Empire State Building. It gets hit by lightning multiple times every year. And it's not alone. Tall, conductive structures like skyscrapers, towers, and even trees are frequent targets for lightning. The truth is, lightning doesn't care about how many times it's hit the same spot. It follows the path of least resistance, always looking for the quickest route to the ground. This myth likely came from the idea that lightning is a rare, unpredictable event. But in reality, it's far more predictable than we think. And when it strikes, it doesn't hesitate to return to familiar spots. So next time you hear this one, remember, lightning doesn't follow the rules. It strikes exactly where it wants, as many times as it needs. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. It's one of those myths that always seems to pop up, especially when we talk about animals being dumb. But here's the thing, it's absolutely false. Goldfish actually have impressive memory capabilities. They can remember things for months and can even be trained to perform tasks. In fact, some studies show that goldfish can recognize their owners and remember them long after they've been introduced. So, why the 3-second memory myth? It's probably because goldfish, like many animals, have a different way of processing and responding to information. Their brains aren't built for long-term memory like ours, but they definitely don't forget everything in an instant. I used to think goldfish were forgetful creatures. Now I know they've got a lot more going on under the surface than I ever gave them credit for. And maybe it's time we all rethink what it means to be smart. You should drink 8 glasses of water a day. It's something I've heard for years everywhere, from health blogs to my own doctor's office. It just felt like the magic number. 8 glasses. Simple. Easy to remember. Hygiene solved. But here's the thing. It's not based on any hard science. The 8 glasses rule is more of a guideline than a fact. In reality, the amount of water you need depends on a lot of factors: your activity level, climate, diet, and even your body's individual needs. Studies show that most people get enough water from the foods they eat: fruits, vegetables, soups, not just drinking plain water. And the idea that you need exactly 8 glasses, that's a myth created by simple recommendations that stuck over time. Now, I still drink plenty of water, but I don't obsess over the exact number. Hydration isn't about counting glasses. It's about listening to my body and staying in tune with what I really need. Cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. I've heard this one countless times. Every time I cracked my knuckles, someone would warn me about the inevitable damage I was doing. But when I looked into it, I discovered the truth. It's just not true. There's no solid evidence linking knuckle cracking to arthritis. The sound you hear when you crack your knuckles? It's gas bubbles popping in the joints, nothing more. It doesn't damage the cartilage, and it certainly doesn't lead to arthritis. But why does it still have such a grip on us? It's probably because cracking knuckles sounds like something you shouldn't do, a bad habit that's hard to ignore. And, in fact, excessive force or repetitive motions over time could cause joint problems, but arthritis? That's a different issue entirely. I used to avoid cracking my knuckles, thinking I was preventing future pain. Now, I know better. It's just an annoying sound, and nothing more. Bulls get angry when they see the color red. I've seen it in countless bullfighting scenes, the matador twirling his red cape, the bull charging madly. It's almost iconic. But here's the twist. Bulls don't actually care about the color red. In fact, bulls are colorblind to red. They can see shades of green and blue, but red doesn't trigger any kind of special reaction. What makes them charge isn't the color at all, but the movement of the cape. The bull is reacting to the motion, not the hue. So why does this myth exist? It's likely because of the dramatic image of the red cape in bullfighting. The color red has been linked to aggression and power for centuries, and it just stuck. I used to think bulls were enraged by red. Now I know it's the movement, not the color. And that changes everything I thought I knew about these animals. People only lived to 30 years old. I've heard this one so many times, from history books to documentaries. The idea that in the past, the average lifespan was barely over 3 decades, as if our ancestors were all short-lived and fragile. But when I took a closer look, I realized something surprising. This isn't the whole story. The average life expectancy in ancient times may have been around 30, but that's because it includes infant mortality. When babies died at an early age, it brought down the average. But the people who survived childhood, many of them lived much longer. In fact, quite a few lived well into their 60s or even longer. In ancient Rome, for example, if you made it past your teenage years, reaching your 50s or 60s wasn't uncommon. It's just that infant death rates skewed the numbers dramatically. The truth is, our ancestors weren't dying young. They were dying young from disease. I used to believe humans had short lives back then. Now I know if you made it through the tough early years, you could expect a full, long life. The myth of the 30-year life is just a misunderstanding of historical statistics. So, there you have it. 13 myths that have shaped the way we see the world, all debunked. The truth is often more complicated than the stories we tell ourselves, and sometimes it's more surprising than we expect. If you want to keep uncovering the truth behind the myths, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more to explore. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.